here?
So on that, everyone, if you've Teams, and if you go towards the top, or whatever version of Teams you're on, whether you download it or if you're on the web setting, on my computer at least, there's like 3 dots next to the hand raise function. If you click on that for more actions, it actually gives you the option for large gallery and together mode. So we've never tried this before ourselves, but I think you would have to click on these views yourselves to be able to see if you can get large gallery. I think large gallery is 7 by 7. Oh wow, look at that. And then there's also a preview mode. I think actually there's a together mode where you're all we're all sitting in seats together. So I don't know if people can see that. Because I didn't know I'm sharing my screen at all here, but
I think your Teams is way more advanced than mine.
Yeah, it's possible because we the city, us as a city agency and other city agencies have been using this. So I just, if you have these functionalities, you can try that. You may not if you haven't downloaded it. So
Okay.
But if you want to try to search around for it, that could allow you to see more people. Otherwise, if you're on through the web version, you may only see the person who's speaking. If you've downloaded the app, you should have these capabilities, but you'd have to find it. So, but without further ado, let's turn it over to you, Alexa, to open the meeting and then get going here.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad to be in virtual space with you all. So welcome to our Youth Board Youth Committee meeting, last meeting of the year. I hope you're all well. Apologies for the delay, but glad to be here. We have an exciting agenda for everyone. So I guess we'll jump in. It would be great. I don't know, did we do introductions already? Should we skip that given time?
Yes.
I think given time, we probably want to.
We're gonna skip that, so that's okay. So welcome all, and we'll have some special introductions as we have some new folks in the room. So I guess I will hand it over to Commissioner Chung, and he'll kick us off with the commissioner's remarks.
Commissioner, your microphone. Microphone's off, Commissioner. I can't hear the commissioner. Can everyone else?
No.
We have to unmute him. So
I'm unable to unmute him for some reason. It's not giving me the option.
That's odd.
Can he hit the button? He can't.
Yeah.
Oh, you're running it for him, huh?
Bill, if you need to, go out and come back in.
And we agree with everything you're saying.
Especially that large budget that the youth board and youth committee have in the coming year.
Bill, you may need to try signing out and calling back in. Oh, it looks like he did that. Okay. Oh, technology.
Technology fun. So I'm gonna actually, maybe in the advent of time, the one thing we can do is put forward an approval of the September 20th, the September 2020 board meeting minutes.
Sure.
So I'm sure everyone reviewed them thoroughly because we are that type of amazing group. So if anyone has any questions or would like to put a motion to approve.
I move. I'm not going to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Thank you. And I guess all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fantastic. Any opposed? Great. Motion passes. Thank you for the approval of the September 2020 meeting minutes, which feels like 100 years ago.
Sorry to interrupt. I didn't see who seconded. I saw Nancy made the motion, but I did not see who.
I
Who seconded
seconded it. Lucy?
Lucy. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Oh, right. Okay. Because we can't see your face.
I know this is a little strange. You can only see the person that's talking. You can't see anyone else. So great. We're so efficient here. Now, hopefully the commissioner, we've given him a little time to pop back in.
Lucy, you're the only one I see. I can't see anybody else except you.
I can see you. That's nice. I
Nice.
don't know where everybody else is.
Yeah, I can see 10. I can see 10 people.
Oh,
Oh, you're fancy, George. I can only
Right.
see the person who talks.
yeah, I think it's because we didn't download the app. I was talking to Anthony about this when we just got on, is that unless you download the app, it's a limitation to what you can do on your browser, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, can't wait for this to be over.
For sure. So, Anthony, what do you think?
I was trying to call him to see if I could put it on my speakerphone on my cell, but he was on here.
Yeah.
And we couldn't hear him. I think he may have dropped off and is trying to call back in. Oh,
I see him on the list.
The list. Yeah,
Bill,
baby.
we hear you.
I don't
Okay,
know. I didn't touch anything.
it's just technology. It's technology. So,
No, there you are.
all right.
We see you. Yes.
Now you're coming in.
Okay.
I feel like this is Radio Free Europe in 1952.
Let me just say, I hope everyone is, that their families, their loved ones are safe and healthy. I think we have a few more months to get through before we turn the corner on this pandemic. I know the staff is going to be talking about the tenets of programs, but I just want to give a shout out to the staff of the nonprofits who really have done incredible things this last 10 months. It seems like 10 years. They've worked night and day. They've adapted programs remotely. They shut down summer programs. They restarted summer programs. They created new programs literally within weeks, whether it be Summer Bridge or Learning Bridges. I mean, the Learning Bridge program, which is the child care initiative this fall, it's akin, the fire commissioner said this in a call early on. He said it's like the UPK rollout in 2014. Well, the UPK rollout was done in 21 months. We did Learning Bridges in 3 months. So that gives you a sense of the commitment of the staff and the creativity of the staff. I also want to say a few things that the things that we're supposed to do, we did. We registered 3,000 contracts. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but that's 3,000 programs where people got paid. And, you know, that was important to do. And the most important thing is we continue the work of transforming DYCD to a collective impact strategy. We've expanded Discover DYCD, more programs now you can apply online. And, you know, when we did this, started this process 3 years ago, we wanted to make it easier for people to connect to services. We never thought how useful an online application would be in a pandemic. So I just want to say that, and I know there are a lot of questions about where programs at, where programs will be at, a lot of things we don't know. So I'll end it there, and I hope everyone enjoys the holiday and stays safe.
Thank you.
Well, do you have, this is Nancy, can I ask a question, Alexa?
Yes, go for it, Nancy.
Bill, obviously the city is facing a really a budget catastrophe if there's no assistance to state and local governments. I'm wondering, have you been given any early indication about what that means for DYCD?
At this point, we don't have much information because a lot depends on Washington, whether there's going to be a COVID relief package before the end of the year, whether there's going to be a new stimulus package, all those things. I hate to say it, it comes down to Georgia. How bad things are, or how good things can become. In our mid-November plan, we actually saw a slight bump in our budget. We went to about 843 million from about 798 million, but that was because money was added because of the Learning Labs initiative. That money will probably go away. We're trying to plan for next summer for SYP, but we don't know how much money we'll have. We'll know, I think, we'll have some sense in late January or early February when the preliminary budget is put out. And even that may change, as we have learned in the past.
We have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. And I just want to underscore thanks and appreciation definitely for all the staff at DYCD and obviously the service providers and everyone who has really dug deep during these really challenging times and really supported one another and the most vulnerable among us. So we know we're headed into ongoing challenging times, and it will require us to keep digging deep. So I want to, highlight and thank you and thank the staff for all the work that they've done. It is duly noted. So I don't know if any other of the board members have a question for the commissioner or comments. So I guess hearing none, I thank you, Commissioner, for that report. And I know more questions will certainly come out in the latter half of the when we talk with more of the staff about kind of plans, the status of specific things and plans moving forward. So get your questions ready for then. So I guess moving on to the next piece, we have some superstars among us in this list. We're really excited to announce, you all know that we have been on a journey and engaged in conversation around ways to bring in youth representation and youth voice to the board. And we constituted a youth engagement committee, and I would just want to first thank those who sit on the committee, and those are Jeanette Rodriguez, Greg Hembrick, Annie Corvellis, and at one point, Gary, who is now the administrator of HRA, was tried and true, and I think we have someone from HRA. I'm not sure.
Actually, Gary's on.
Gary's on.
Hi.
Gary, well, I'm so glad you're here, Gary. Gary Jenkins, all part of this incredible committee that worked really hard to really think through what youth engagement could look like, what youth representation could look like, and we created an application. We partnered with My Brother Sisters Keeper, and want to thank Tracy Gardner and certainly the staff there, Andre, and also Anthony, who also were part of this process, to get us to the point where we are able to tell you today that we have 4 youth representatives who will be joining the board, and I'll be introducing them, and some faces you will recognize and some will be new, but we are so excited to have them. They did fill out, we had 7 applications, we did 5 interviews, we chose 4 students to be with us. So, this effort is going to be an engagement over a year's time to co-create what youth representation on the board could look like. And so we'll be building it out for the future. So we are so delighted these young people are dynamic and powerful, and we've gotten a little bit of a flavor of their voices in some of our meetings. And I can say that I was personally blown away, but so was everyone else. And so they're going to bring the fire and make sure that this board is going to do as best as it can. So our four new youth reps are Aaliyah D. Abreu. I don't know, Aaliyah, if she's, oh yes, you're here, Aaliyah. So I'm just gonna, actually, Aaliyah, would you like to say hi and maybe tell everyone your name, your age, where you go to school, and like one thing that you're passionate about?
Hello?
We hear you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aaliyah Diabru. I am 18 years old and I attend St. Francis College in downtown Brooklyn. And something that I'm passionate about is poetry.
Awesome, Aaliyah. Thank you so much. We're so excited. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And our next youth representative that I'd like to introduce is Ebube Namwe. And I'm not sure I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Ebube, but I know you will correct me. If you would also introduce yourself, Ebube.
Abube, you're muted.
I'm sure Abube is trying to speak.
I know that feeling.
All right, we'll give Abube. We're gonna give you a go to the next youth rep, and we fix your mic.
Oh, Abube, try signing out and coming back in. That worked for the commissioner before.
Yeah, let's see. Okay. Yep, he's signing out. So, great. So we'll move to the next youth rep. So we're also excited to welcome Kyla Minto. So Kyla, if you're here, we're
everyone. So my name is Kyla Minto. I'm 17 and I attend York Early College Academy in Queens. And something I'm very passionate about is playing instruments.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyla. Congratulations. And we're so excited to work with you. And then our fourth youth representative is Amadou Diane. Amadou, are you on the line?
Hello?
We hear you.
All right, good afternoon, guys. My name is Amadou Diagne. I'm 18 years old, originally from Brooklyn, and I'm passionate about leaving my mark on the world.
All right, you go.
There you go. He's left so many marks already. You know, we can tell you so much. I don't know if Abube is back on. Thank you, Amadou. Is Abube back on the list? I can't see the list now.
I see him on the list. Abube, are you? I see you too. We see you and you're on the list, but we can't hear you.
All right. Well, I guess when we can figure.
I was going to say, do you see, can you see the chat function? If you type in like a cell phone number, maybe we could try calling you. Maybe just stay on, we see you on video, maybe we can hear you if you call in.
Yeah,
He wrote in the chat room.
Okay.
Yeah.
He wrote in the chat.
Okay.
I'll try to call his number.
All right. Thanks, Andre.
Great. Thank you so much. If you can hear us, Abube, sorry. We'll get to hear your voice soon enough. So anyway, hopefully we'll get Abube's audio working and we can hear from him. Abube has presented along with Aaliyah and Amadou at the Youth Board. So you all will have recognized their faces, but they really bring an enormous amount of energy, and we are just truly excited to work with them. The interview process was so great, brings so much passion and interest, and really want to figure out how to create a really great partnership. So stay tuned. Let's see, we have.
Bube. Oh, hey, it's Anthony here. I may, let's try this. I'm going to put you on my speaker and then hopefully people will hear you. I mean, let's try this. Just hold on. Just hold on. Hey, folks, I have Abube on my speaker phone. Abube, you want to try speaking and see if people can hear you?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Do people hear him?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do this.
I do not know what's wrong with my computer. I'm sorry, everyone. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abube Weme, and I'm 17 years old. I go to Port of Manhattan Community College, BMCC, and something I'm passionate about is the youth voice of New York City. Thank you.
It was worth the wait. Good to hear you, Abube. Again, we want to congratulate all the youth representatives. Thank you for your interest and your partnership. And we're excited to work with you and take this to the next level. So we welcome you, and we're glad to have you as part of our group, our motley crew here, who's fighting with technology, but we are persisting. So with that, I think we can probably move to the state of DYCD programs.
Well, actually, before we do that, Alexa, I wanted to know if you wanted to say a little bit more about how the board will be working with the youth reps in the coming year to co-create what it means to be a youth rep, maybe just to share with the rest of the board some of that.
Sure. Thank you, Anthony. Always keeping me in line. I'm so thankful for you. Yes, and just to point out, it sounds like Anna's having problems hearing the conversation, so we have a kind of another tech fun conundrum. She mentioned it in the chat. So the Youth Engagement Committee, what some of the thinking has been is that, we didn't design a program that we would fit young people in. The whole thinking was that we would do this work together. And so over the course of this year, the youth reps, youth committee, and maybe some other board members will be meeting in the in-between times to develop both a framework, and it'll be organic. There'll be some skill building elements that we'll decide on collectively. And then it'll really be a partnership and a discussion around what this should look like, where the interests are and what things would need to change, and really kind of designing, hopefully to be presented to the full board for their input and approval, what a full youth representation on the board will look like. That will include potential changes to the bylaws, operational changes, suggestions. But the purpose here is to build something together that we can then integrate as part of the way the board fundamentally works. It'll just be an integrated part of the board. So, I see this effort as, you know, a group of mad scientists working together to create something exciting, something that is organic and really kind of speaks to the interests and the needs. And so, you know, there's a lot to be fleshed out, and we are going to be working in partnership with the My Brothers Sisters Keepers staff, because there's an enormous amount of scaffolding through that program, because all these young people are council members of the My Brothers Sisters Keepers. So there's a lot of complementary effort going on. So we're going to be building it with that in mind of potentially filling some gaps if there are gaps, but also just bringing whatever we can to the next level. And I think that's the expectation. The youth reps all were very clear that their interests are having impact and really creating something. And I think it may have been Amadou who mentioned, you know, or forgive me if I'm miscrediting it, but you all said that you didn't want to be the youth sticker that's just put on a finished product. You know, you wanted to be part of the creation and you wanted to have impact. And I think we're all really taking that to heart and are looking forward to creating something together. So the committee will continue to meet and report back as more of the structures get put in place. So if anybody has any other questions or comments, obviously, absolutely welcomed. Great. So I guess hearing no questions or comments, I think that means you're all very excited. And you're probably jumping around in your rooms. So I appreciate all that excitement and energy.
I just want to say congratulations and welcome to our new members, and also thank you for everyone who's worked hard to make this happen. And I, you know, just that one presentation we had about a year ago was so dynamic and really brought so much thought into the room. And so I really look forward to how our new members will really push this entire group of people forward in thinking, and it's really exciting. So thank you.
I just wanted to add that in my many years in public service, the one thing I've learned is that if you want to continue to make positive, progressive change, you always need to bring in new blood. And as I sort of head towards the end of this stage in my career as commissioner, I remember that, you know, I started as a activist at City College at the age of 16. And, you know, it opened the opportunity for me, which I never thought one day I'd head a city agency. So hopefully some of you will choose public service as a career.
And I just want to add both to the commissioner and Jordana and Alexa, we have been talking about this for years, the board of kind of getting your voice more formalized. So we are thrilled to have you on board, and just really looking forward to partnering with you. So thank you so much for being here.
Great. Thank you so much, Liz, Commissioner, and Jordana. You all, thank you for your leadership and encouragement and support in this effort. So more to come, folks, more to come. We're very excited. So I guess with that, we will move to the agenda to talk about the state of DYCD program. So I guess I will pass it over to Anthony.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Anthony Ng, Deputy Chief of Staff here at DYCD. And before I begin this part of our meeting today, again, I also want to extend my thank you to the young people who are selected to be the youth reps. Look forward to working with you to co-create what it means to be a youth rep for the Youth Board, Youth Committee in the years ahead. And, thank you again to everyone involved working on this, and especially to those on the DYCD side, Tracy Garcia, Joyce, Andre. It was really a team effort working with the youth board members to make this happen. And thanks also to the commissioner for supporting this. So looking forward to it. So we thought that for this month's Youth Board Youth Committee meeting, it would be good to hear from some of our division leaders at DYCD. This is our leaders of our DYCD program divisions who have been working with their teams and the providers on the ground, really to continue operating programs in this time. And as I'm sure you'll hear from them today, there's been a lot that we've had to adapt and adjust to, dating back to when the city shut down first in March, and that really, since that time, all DYCD programs have been operating in a combination of either hybrid, remote only, or in-person when possible. So we wanted to have this agenda item just to give all of you on the board and committee a little more flavor of what's been involved and happening with programming on the ground over the past few months. Also, just a sense of what may be planned for in the coming months, and also what thinking we're doing right now to think about summer programming. And mind you, anything that we say or mention today can all be subject to change, because I think if we've learned anything about COVID, there's continued change and adapting that we have to undergo. So with that, I think the way we're going to handle this part of the agenda is basically I'm going to moderate a conversation with some of our program leaders of our different divisions. I'll call on them and they can introduce themselves. And then we'll just have a few questions for them about how things have been going, what our program is looking like on the ground, and then open it up to questions from all of you as the board and committee members. So on that score, I think the first thing we wanted to be able to talk about was just, how have programs been going? What's been looking like on the ground over the past few months, especially over the summer? I think many here on the board and committee were aware that we had money put back late in the budget process for SYP, which became Summer Bridge. There are some summer programs that also got partially restored too. So, what I would like to do now is to ask each of our leaders from our program divisions to kind of talk about that and basically what programming has been like since the school year started, because so much of our program involves young people, and clearly there was the whole reopening of schools and basically how that reopen affected our program. So let me start here by calling on Tracy, Caldron, and Wanda Ascherl, who of our Youth Services Division. I'll turn it over to both of you if you want to introduce yourselves with your titles and just speak about what you've been seeing in the youth services area, and then we'll move on to our workforce and community development areas. Tracy, Wanda?
Sure. Tracy, I'll start and then. So good evening, right? It is evening still, right? Or afternoon, maybe late afternoon.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Wanda Ascherl. I am the Assistant Commissioner for Community Centers. And thank you guys for having us here. And I think, and I echo everyone's earlier sentiments about having young people represented here. They're the ones that are going to be, thinking outside the box and challenging our way of thinking. So that's very refreshing, and I appreciate that. So what we've seen since the pandemic, I think to what Anthony said earlier, our providers shifted quickly. It was March 13th was like the last day. And then after that, they pivoted quickly to, I'm going to speak for community centers. They pivoted really quickly to be a community resource. They were literally a settlement house for the community and the connector of resources for the families, from food. A lot of our programs activated to be a food source for our families, in addition to just virtual and remote services. Connecting to our various partners. A lot of agencies and smaller organizations wanted to give back and figure out how can they provide support. So it was great to be able to connect our CBOs to those resources, from creating book bags with supplies and materials to give out to the families, to, again, as I mentioned earlier, to providing meals, making connections, just being a resource as far as like how do we deal with COVID and what's happening in our communities. A lot of our programs, in addition to that, had to really think creatively of how to engage families. And we noticed a huge uptake on wellness calls. So a lot of our providers were doing a lot of calls to families, just checking in, seeing how they were doing, seeing what services they needed, making sure that at the end of the day, they knew that they were there, that they knew that they can make a phone call. And at the end of the day, one of our CBOs would be able to make a connection for them. So we saw a lot of that. And then our providers pivoted very quickly to virtual activities and for youth and adults. So our community centers serve young adults and adults. So here we are in March, and our model includes evening services for adults, and there are classes that are taking place. There's ESL, there's salsa classes. So our programs were able to provide that continued resource in right soon after the pandemic. In the summer, as Anthony mentioned, we found out, or providers found out, just like we did at the last second, that they got restored. So it was like June 30th and July 1st, they had to, we received information that our funding was restored for summer. I think that with all the advocacy and obviously the need for continued services, our providers quickly activated to provide a summer camp experience, with some modifications, of course, ensuring safety and social distancing. It wasn't the same volume of young people, but nonetheless, young people were being served. And the stories behind that, seeing pictures, hearing anecdotes of young people and elementary kids going, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you," because they were virtual and remote. So that was delightful to hear. And the staff and the providers really enjoyed seeing their faces. Just that human contact, we realized how critical that was. So it was an enjoyable summer. And then now we are in the school year. We continue to, provide support to our families. As the commissioner said, a lot of our providers wanted to expand their services and are now learning labs. So they provide services, as early as 8 o'clock in the morning. So a lot of our cornerstones and were our beacons, but our cornerstone programs that are center-based became learning labs. So they continue to provide remote, a mix of remote, and in-person services in the after school and evening. So I'm going to pause there because I know that Tracy, would like to add to a lot of what I said.
And before we go on to Tracy, Wanda, can you just remind folks again, when we talk about community centers, what are we talking about there? How many and what are the types? Because I don't think everyone here is fully knows all that or recalls it. Just a quick recap.
Sure. So I oversee the Beacon community centers. Our Beacon programs are school-based. And we have 91 programs. We're working on 92. And they operate after school, evening, weekends, holidays, summer. And they provide services for youth, young youth, as early as first grade, kindergarten, young adults, seniors. And then our cornerstone programs are located in NYCHA facilities. So these are our center-based programs. We have 99 now. We've grown. And the reason I'm pausing with 99, I'm like sound hesitant, is because we went from 94. So we just added 5 additional cornerstone sites. So our our cornerstone programs are growing. We're taking over our NYCHA centers. But we're excited about the 5 that are coming on. They're center-based. They operate very similar to the Beacon programs. The one exception that I would say is that, you know, there's more flexibility with the space. It's our space. So, you know, and they're literally located in the center of the community. So they're serving not only the students from schools, but the families that live and reside in the developments.
Thanks, Wanda.
Sure.
Tracy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Caldron. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for the Comprehensive After-School System, better known as COMPASS. And COMPASS is comprised of over 900 programs. We serve kids in grades K to 12, and we provide a mix of academics, recreation, enrichment, and cultural activities in support of positive youth development. Our programs are mostly in Department of Education school buildings, but we have also community center programs and alternate sites such as libraries, shelters, and we have programs in non-secure and secure detention facilities as well. Like Wanda's programs, we also provide summer programming and programming during school holidays. So I guess I'll just kind of fill in the blanks. Wanda and I had similar experiences through this pandemic with summer, with the late funding. We typically start planning for summer camp in the early part of the year, March, doing trainings, and programs start recruiting for summer and gearing up, and then to be told that, you know, there wasn't funding, and then at the last minute we had to funding was restored, and then we had to start, you know, try to start programs at the last minute. So as a result of that, as you can imagine, you know, it affected enrollment and recruitment for our programs. And a lot of programs weren't able to actually provide summer camp because when they were told they lost funding, they furloughed staff. And that was you know, a huge blow. And then to try to get staff back at the last minute was very difficult, and they had to try to overcome that. So we had less programs operating over the summer than we normally do, about half or less than half over the summer. But I do want to say, I think Bill said this earlier about how resilient our agencies, our provider agencies have been. They definitely have recovered from summer and into the school year, which has been another whirlwind. You know, we're getting whiplash going back and forth from remote programming to in-person services, but we're doing it. Our programs are all up and running. And providing mostly in-person services. And when they can't, they're providing virtual programming. As a result of the pandemic, we've had to adapt protocols, procedures. You know, this is, you know, implementing services in a brand new way, which was virtually. You know, we had to kind of reinvent ourselves. And both providers and both on the DYCD side, and, you know, and how we support, how we do evaluations virtually. So it kind of changed a lot of aspects of the of our initiative. But again, providers have stepped up, and we've learned a lot. I think a lot of programming that has been developed during this time, we can utilize going forward. Wanda mentioned like wellness calls, which have been so beneficial, not just for the kids that are enrolled in our program, but for the entire families, even for my initiative where we only serve, you know, the children. We don't have adult services, but those calls were lifelines for our families. families. It's how they got connected to other programming and other services. So things, activities like that, I think will be ongoing. And some of the virtual aspects of the program that have been developed is a way to serve kids when they're not in school. So we're powering through this, and we're taking it day by day. We're hoping by the summer things will get back to normal, and we'll be supporting our programs, you know, as we have been in the past for the upcoming summer months. So thanks again for having me. I'm really happy to be here and to meet all of you. And I thank you for your support of our programs.
Thanks, Tracy. So now I'd like to turn it over to Daphne and Megan, who are the heads of our workforce areas, have them introduce themselves. They could share with you a little bit about what happened over the summer and what we've been doing in the fall, and speak about the workforce aspect of our agency's work. Daphne, Megan?
Hi, everyone. Daphne Montanez. I'm Assistant Commissioner for Youth Workforce Programs. That encompasses SYEP, the Ladders for Leaders program, Work, Learn, and Grow, and the Advance and Earn program. In terms of the workforce impact, starting with Advance and Earn, we launched the program back in February. It was a very, it's a brand new initiative for us, as you know, and just as our providers were gearing up program services, the pandemic hit and they very quickly had to move to remote. And it caused a great deal of disruption at first. However, our providers really, they were really able to shift gears and deliver both academic instruction and career and other experiences remotely. While it was a challenge, I will say that for the most part, the providers did a great job in ensuring that they kept young people engaged in this new remote environment, and we learned a great deal. We also worked with a number of our TA providers to provide some additional training as it relates to engaging young people and providing academic instruction in Advance and Earn remotely. So that was something new for our providers, and that learning continues on as we are in our second cohort this fall. In terms of SYEP, you all know that, you know, the history there this spring, the announcement of the suspension, it was definitely jarring for all of us, but we knew immediately once that announcement was made that we definitely needed to start gearing up plans for an alternative program. So from the start of April, our team, along with our partners at the Center for Youth Employment, and our other sister agencies, work to develop a model for a remote program, a summer bridge, which incorporated remote project-based learning experiences. We worked with our Hats and Ladders provider, which was a online career and college awareness tool that allowed young people to, on a self-guided method, to explore different careers and also work on transferable skills and their resume and interview and communication skills, for instance. And probably the highlight of the summer was the incorporation of a new program, the Workplace Challenge. And that allowed us to work with a number of employers in a very different way, moving away from an in-person type of relationship and experience to having more of a mentoring relationship with young people, having them work on projects designed by employers, and having the young people work in teams, small groups, to actually develop projects and present at the end of the Summer Bridge experience. We received great feedback employers about that experience. It's something that we hope to continue and incorporate. So definitely a lot of learnings. We got off to a late start, as everyone knows, but I think all of the pre-planning that we did, we engaged our providers earlier on to get their thoughts in terms of ideas for remote planning, the types of projects that they would be able to deliver to young people to make it an engaging experience, ensuring young people had technology, working with the DOE to make sure every DOE student could continue using their device throughout the summer as part of their participation in the program. And so for 5 weeks, we embarked on the Summer Bridge program, and definitely looking to build upon some of that learning as we go into planning for next summer in whatever form SYEP will take in 2021. In terms of the fall, we launched our Work, Learn, and Grow program. This year, the model for your Work, Learn, and Grow is slightly different. We are working with our career-ready DOE schools, and young people who participated in the Summer Bridge program were invited to apply. The model this year really focuses on preparing young people for careers and also college awareness. The first part of the program, the first 6 weeks, our young people are engaged in participating in CUNY College Now classes. There are actually 3 different sections. 2 of the sections allow young people who complete and successfully pass the program to actually gain a college credit while also earning a stipend for their participation. And for those that have already completed those courses, there's a separate digital media program that young people will be able to engage in a number of projects related to digital marketing, for instance. And then at the actually the 3rd week of December, we shift over to the internship component. And our providers right now are working diligently on developing internship opportunities. Given where we are with the state of COVID, we have requested that our providers develop both in-person and remote internships, as well as a contingency plan for a hybrid if and when sites are closed, if someone has to quarantine, for instance, just ensuring that there's continuity. This, of course, is quite new for us, the idea of a remote internship and working with employers and trying to work side by side with them on crafting a remote internship is something that our team, led by our employer engagement team, has really focused on. We worked with Grant Associates, our TA provider, to develop a remote internship guide that will facilitate conversations with providers on their pitches to employers to take on young people, and really goes through the aspects of what a remote internship should be structured like, and also what the supervisory component should be, as well as the level of support that both the providers and the employers can provide to our young people. So we are in the midst of developing those internships now, our providers as well, with a lot of TA from our team. Our employer engagement team also has been working closely with SBS and the mayor's, the MWBE businesses that they work closely with. And through that partnership, we've already identified over 200 internships, primarily, which will be remote, which is a great success story. And we're looking to continue to really expand upon that. So the learnings that we have regarding remote work will help inform us as we start planning summer 2021. You know, one of the biggest questions that we have is really, what will the spring and summer look like in New York City?
not only from a health perspective, but also what industries are going to be around. There's, what businesses are going to be open, the traditional sectors that we have normally placed young people and, have really suffered, and we don't know when they'll be able to come back, if at all. And also a number of companies are learning that maybe they don't need to bring everyone back in person, and they want to continue some sort of remote experience for their employees. And so we also need to, as a workforce team, ensure that we're preparing young people for the world of work, and the world has changed. And so that may also incorporate, expand the idea of what an internship experience or a job experience looks like for our young people. Our Advance and Earn cohort also started. Our second cohort started in September. We currently have about 457 young people that have been enrolled in the program. Primarily, the academic instruction is being delivered remotely, and that continues, while some of the occupational training and internships, it's a mix of both in-person as well as remote as well. So that will continue until the end of January, and we begin our third cohort in February.
Thank you, Daphne. That was very comprehensive. So I want to turn over to Megan, who will talk about just the other part of our workforce programs. These are some of our federally funded programs from the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So Megan, I'll turn it over to you if you can cover it in the next 5 minutes or so.
Absolutely.
I should be mindful of time so that Mike gets to mention his programs too. Thanks.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Keenan. I am the Assistant Commissioner for our Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funded programs. We run 2 programs with this funding, Learn and Earn, which is for high school juniors and seniors, and Train and Earn, which is for young adults aged 16 to 24 who aren't working and aren't in school. I would say broadly across both of those programs, like everyone before me has said, obviously when we went into lockdown so quickly, they really had to, pivot very quickly to doing everything online. And there was a lot of variation in how equipped they were to do that, but we've provided them with a lot of technical assistance. And I think people are feeling good and feeling comfortable. And, at this point, since March, have been offering almost all of their services online. Virtually, we had some in-person intake and enrollment assessment type activities happening earlier this fall. Some of that has scaled back as the COVID rate has gone up. But there's not a lot of in-person services taking place beyond that at this time. People just don't have the space to do it for large groups of young people. For Learn and Earn, the high school program, I think that the biggest challenge for them right now is that most of them are sited in high schools. So this is a challenge this fall for them to recruit new students. They remain connected to students that came in last year as juniors, but they're working really hard to find new students this year, something that typically would be done by this point. They're still working on, and that's fine. I think my mantra for this entire year is going to just be flexibility. We're just going to have to be as flexible as we can, and if that means moving the goalposts on some of these goals that we have discretion over, then that's what it means, and that's fine. We're really pleased to be incorporating the Hats and Ladders platform that Daphne mentioned into Learn and Earn. We just launched that last week. We're really super excited. I know that our contractors loved it, so I think that's going to be a really great and very timely addition to the program, given that it's all online. For Train and Earn, we are, that program enrolls young people throughout the year. So our providers are bringing young people on board. And to ease the enrollment process for both of these programs, we've moved to a totally virtual eligibility documentation system. WIOA as a federal program requires quite a lot of documentation of eligibility, and we've been able to move to a system that allows providers to do that. And in the coming weeks, young people themselves will be able to upload their documents so they don't have to go out in the world, travel on the subway, do anything that they're not comfortable doing during COVID. So that's exciting. The other thing that we're doing for Train and Earn is related to paid work experience. We increased the number of hours that they would get a paid work experience from 150 to 175. And we're going to work with grant associates to implement a workplace challenge model, given that, you know, the number of in-person work sites we anticipate is going to be limited still over the next few months. And I'm just looking at my notes. I think that, you know, in the coming months, as I said, I think the key for us is going to be flexibility, really providing support as much as we can to individual contractors based on their needs and their challenges, getting these tools out for them that they can take advantage of so that they have as many options as possible. And I'm hoping that by July, when we run our paid internship piece for the high school students, that we're in more or less an in-person scenario. But even if we're not, we'll have some workplace challenge and some remote experience under our belt and can develop those opportunities as well. So that's all I have, Anthony. If there are any questions, you know, now or later, obviously I can answer them.
Thanks, Megan. So I think let's have Mike talk about the community development areas, and then we'll open it up for questions from the group. So wanted to turn it over now to Mike Bobbitt, our Acting Deputy Commissioner of Community Development, and have him talk about his program area.
Thank you, Anthony. Can everyone hear me okay? I've been having some computer issues. I got kicked off of the meeting. I'm rejoining you via phone. One of the pleasures of going last is I have a great group of colleagues who've already said a lot of the stuff that I might have wanted to say, and they said it better than I would have. But I can still buttress some of the same points. You know, as colleagues have pointed out, the coronavirus pandemic has been extremely disruptive in terms of the timing of when this disruption occurred. Once we began adapting our services and our oversight, and once the providers in turn began adapting their direct services, we're talking around March I should have set some more context before I make that the point. I'm sorry. So in my current capacity, I'm working with the breadth of the community services block grant portfolio. So this includes the Neighborhood Development Areas Initiative, those serve youth, adolescents, adults, and seniors, as well as some of the CSVG funded citywide initiatives like the Fatherhood Initiative, Comprehensive Services for Immigrant Families, and the Adolescent Literacy Portfolio. In addition, I also work with the Literacy and Immigrant Services teams, as well as the New York City Council discretionary programs. So I'm trying to convey under the division some of the practices that cut across all lines. But with to go back to my point though, from that interval of say March through July, most of the anti-poverty portfolio had already reached their enrollment targets. And so the process of adapting services was to move from having in-person meetings and group meetings to having virtual meetings and telephone calls and other kinds of follow-up. And so despite the disruption, and I made a similar presentation of this type to our Community Action Board, in terms of FY20, we actually had a good year overall. They were able, through wildly adapting and through use of telephone and text chains and emails and other technologies, with a population that sometimes is not necessarily the most technologically sophisticated or tech literate or forward, but they're able to retain a goodly number of their clients and achieve a lot of the outcomes that were expected. For our part, we adapted to a coaching and a facilitative role. So whereas most programs under normal circumstances might have had quarterly provider meetings, throughout the spring, we were having bi-weekly provider meetings and using those largely as a forum to both convey any recent city or state guidance that had come along, but more importantly, allow them as a community of peers to discuss promising practices. So which ones were using Zoom as opposed to WebEx, or which ones are using, one or another mass blast texting app, right? YouTube videos and other resources they think were helpful to engage their participants. And we began to collapse some of the portfolios. So the NDA high school programs, the opportunity programs started meeting together to share common practices working with youth and adolescents. The seniors programs, healthy families and housing programs similarly started meeting together to discuss common concerns and how to do retention with adults. We have continued, we've slowed the pace somewhat, so we went from bi-weekly meetings to having monthly meetings over the course of the summer. And the other divisions have had similar meetings. So last week I sat in on the fall discretionary provider meeting, the fall literacy and immigrant services provider meeting. And some of those best practices were allowed to go to kind of the virtual head in the room and to discuss some of their adapted practices. So two things that really struck out at me is that there are some low and no cost blast text applications some of our providers are using to retain their clients. And I was delighted to hear some of the exploration for programs that initially had something of a hiccup in our enrollment is, everything from virtual flyering and social media campaigns to Facebook ads to leveraging, just other divisions of their programs. I have to say our providers have been wildly creative. So while they were able to adapt virtually, they have continued to follow the guidance. So as my colleagues have pointed out, once we're in the advent of the state guidance, programs began to come back to offering a hybrid model. I'd say where we are standing in the fall right now, the biggest disruption has probably been in the anti-poverty youth programs, like our NDA high school programs, which ordinarily would have had full enrollment by mid-October. Whereas because of hybrid schedules and adapted school schedules and not having the on-site presence they normally would, we gave them really to the end of this month. And we've also allowed them some flexibility, although those are neighborhood-based programs, and it's expected 80% or more of the clients will be from the neighborhood in question. We don't want any slots to go unused, so we've given them greater flexibility than we would have ordinarily to draw from adjacent neighborhoods. In terms of what we think is coming down the pike or what's coming ahead, I think until we have a clear understanding about the widespread availability of any sort of vaccine, we'll continue to support the programs where they are, which I think will continue to be a hybrid model, doing group meetings virtually and making themselves available as needed for one-on-one case management appointments and follow-up, but even having those services continue virtually where feasible and where advisable. We, over the course of the year, would do a few special events and larger convenings. So rather than put a halt to those entirely, the ones that could be adapted virtually, we've done virtually. So last May, we did our third annual DYCD Community Moms program, where we recognized mothers and mother figures from the programs, kind of peer graduates and local leaders, and had what ended up being actually pretty fantastic virtual discussion. We've done something similar with our fatherhood initiative. So I expect that we will continue to do those sorts of things next spring. So I guess, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that probably the biggest exception across the portfolio would be the discretionary programs because of the necessity to make sure that food has been available. So the discretionary programs over the course of the spring and summer did have to provide, on-site review of those programs because there's no way of getting around seeing to make sure that food is being distributed. Now that those programs have operated for some period of time, we're looking to follow the guidance that we are trying to align on. Same as my colleagues were just talking about a workforce, really prioritizing if our staff need to go out in the field, is to review to make sure new sites are appropriate, but existing sites that have already gone online, we're able to operate and monitor virtually as much as we can. That keeps our staff safe and and they're able to monitor and maintain that way. So I'll pause there, and I'm certainly available for questions and comments. And again, it's lovely to be with and present to the board again. I got to talk about the CAB and the NAB a lot last time, and here I'll just say the Neighborhood Advisory Board meetings have adapted pretty well to meeting on a virtual basis, and where we would ordinarily convene those boards on a quarterly basis, most boards have elected to meet on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. So we actually like the positive impact of this continuity. And within a new NDA RFP forthcoming shortly, it's good to have that continuity because we know we're going to need several external readers from that body. So we're glad that they've wanted to stay in contact with us. They've been wonderful helping communicate other central city messages like the Test and Trace campaign. And so we look forward to continuing to utilize them in ways like that as well.
So thank you, Mike. Also want to thank Daphne and Megan and Tracy and Wanda for sharing with us in more detail what's been happening in your program areas. I know for the members of the board, you know, each meeting we try to be pretty comprehensive in the commissioner's report about what we're up to, but we hope that by hearing directly from our program leaders today, you were able to get even a deeper sense of all that we've been doing at this time to serve New Yorkers and the communities where we have programs funded. So want to be mindful of our time. I see that there's a few raised hands for people who have questions, and why don't I just call on them so that they can ask their questions. So the first person who raised their hand I had saw was Anna.
Hi everyone. Question that I have is that I heard someone saying that many employers are thinking about continuing that started with the COVID-19 of having employees working from home. So you think that that will have a significant impact on the workforce? Meaning that those that are working now from home, will that have a negative impact on certain industries? Can you hear me?
So did everyone hear the question? Let me repeat it back. So I'll, just to make sure we caught your question, Anna. Your question was, do you think that because of certain employers and industries who are either having their employees work from home, how that will impact available, I guess, job opportunities for our programs, I guess, with respect to our workforce programs? Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Let me turn to Daphne, Megan, maybe Mike. But Daphne, Megan, you want to start?
Sure. So I think, yes, it can have an impact on our programs, and it probably will. I think, firstly, it may impact employers' comfort with working with young people remotely, since that is going to be new for most, if not the vast majority of employers, with the exception of maybe the tech industry. I think, though, it also offers an opportunity. As I mentioned before, in years past, we've talked a lot about preparing young people for the future of work. And this pandemic has actually kind of pushed that work along at warp speed, not only for our young people, but for our providers and for us here internally. I think this may present an opportunity for us to explore opportunities for providing remote internships for those employers that would be inclined to provide them. So yes, I think there's some risks, some downside, but I think there are also some opportunities there as well.
Megan, anything you want to add, or?
I mean, I think Daphne summed it up. I think that we're still in a moment where a lot is unpredictable, and I don't know if any of us really know what the situation is going to look like a year from now, but I think that's why for me and our programs, it's so important to really start to push some of these workplace challenges and remote internship work experience opportunities so that we can, really work with employers as well as young people to try and envision what that could look like and figure it out as we go along. So, I think, as Daphne said, the future is now. We're here. We have to sort of be flexible and nimble and try to make it work. But yeah.
So on this,
I'm just going to piggyback on that. I think there's the pandemic, and then I think there's other issues that aren't the pandemic. And really just kind of going off of what Daphne said, in particular what Megan just said right now, we had an internal discussion about some of these issues. So one, when we contract with nonprofits, they've had to adapt their services and their delivery. So that's one whole thing. And in terms of the intrinsic principles around preparing younger people and anyone really to re-enter or engage in the world of work, work is changing all around us. So there's trying to catch up with what's happening in terms of executing the contract and the things that have to happen now. But if you look at some of the stuff in the popular media, maybe 3 months after the pandemic, they thought, well, the private sector is going to adapt to everything being virtual and they're not going to need offices anymore. And then 3 months later, they said, well, wait a minute. Camaraderie has been destroyed in the workforce and we need to get back to physically being together, right? So we are not necessarily on the tail end of this, but we are allies to the private sector and where the jobs are. If we're grooming people for the world of work, and the world of work is kind of sorting out what does that mean. So I think we're staying tuned. We're also looking at ways that we can deliver technical assistance to our providers, but also, as Megan and Daphne had said, prompts that we can issue directly to the sector and consider our young people and our other clients who are trying to stay connected, frankly.
So the one thing I would just add here is I know that many members of the board here, you all have been great in years past in working with us to either be partners in Ladders for Leaders or even looking at other workforce placements. We definitely want to continue that partnership with you all. And I think, Megan, Daphne, and Mike spoke about just, in planning for the coming summer, there's still a lot of unknowns, and that we do need to look at how to develop remote work sites as opposed to any in-person ones, depending on how COVID is and what the health and safety measures are in place at certain workplaces. But we're going to need to look at a balance and multiple strategies. So would love to speak with any of you about how you can still be involved in potentially providing young people with these types of opportunities this year. Specifically, any interest in any of you in thinking about how to set up a type of remote internship opportunities. So we can follow up offline separately. I could send an email and just those of you who are interested, we can engage further offline. I'm just looking in the hands raised. There were a few more hands raised earlier. I saw Alexa had her hand raised and Jackie Chang as well, but I don't see them raised anymore. So I don't know if that means you don't have any questions anymore or if you still have questions. Jackie? Okay.
I do, but I don't want anyone taking up too much time. I just want very quickly, I would like to hear from people about what are the biggest challenges right now for providers, and then how are they building capacity for the eventual return, and that includes recruiting participants and especially high school. I think with that population being disconnected, it's hard to reach back out to them. But what kind of, are they doing any work around that, the eventual return to normalcy, and what are the challenges? That's it, but really quickly.
I mean, I can just jump in really quickly for the Learn and Earn piece, which operates in high schools. And I'll be really honest, right now it's tough because they can't get into the buildings. So, and nobody's now in the buildings anyway to see. So, I think that they're needing to rely heavily on, word of mouth, and it's just going to take them longer. It's going to take them longer to, identify young people and, work with the guidance counselors and others who can identify people who might need help. Young people in all of our programs are struggling with, access to the internet that's reliable. So that's definitely an issue. I have heard that for young people who are connected, though, they really value the programs and the connections and, people to just listen to them. The mental health support and the social support, the peer support that they're getting is very valuable to them, which I think, keeps the providers motivated to keep trying to pull others in because, they're going to need the support. But it's crazy. I mean, it's chaotic. Things are changing all the time in terms of what's happening at school. And so it's kind of topsy-turvy. And that's why for me, the emphasis really is on how can we help you do this? What do you need from me? What do you need from my team? And how can we just make this as smooth as we can on our end? I have no doubt that when they get back into the schools, they'll be fine. They'll probably have an overabundance of interested young people, but they're doing the best they can. I mean, my hats are really off to them. They're really doing a great job under really trying circumstances.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. I don't know if Tracy or Wanda wanted to add anything. We do have one more question from a youth board member, but Tracy, Wanda, anything you wanted to add about Jackie's question? If not, that's fine too.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a little bit different. I mean, some of our programs are operating in-person services, but I think Megan summed it up. It's, it is very difficult with the older children when you don't have in-person services and have that daily connection in a school building. But, some of the virtual activities for the programs that are operating virtually, and we mentioned this earlier with the wellness calls and then doing programming online, they've adapted. It's not ideal. And I have no doubt that they'll recover. Once this is all over, I just worry about the kids that we missed in this, craziness that can't connect to us, and not able to go to school every day and have that stable day to day. So that's my worry.
Thanks. Okay, I saw that George had his hand raised. George House.
Sure. First, I'd like to say congratulations to everyone who gave a presentation. You've most certainly got a very, very challenging operation ahead of you, and you've seen it do it. You've done it extremely well. Those of us who've had the privilege of working at home and not having to work with people like you have not had a challenge like we thought we had a challenge. But as we listen to your challenge, we realize how easy most of us have had it. And I think it's the first year in a lot of years that I haven't had the pleasure of doing anything in the community with Mike Bobbitt. Mike and I have always done a number of programs together with DYCD. At Emblem, like most insurance companies and like big companies, we've always wanted a lot of interns. And I think there might be intern opportunities, but I think you'd have to sell it a lot different. And people will have to be very, very fluid with the internet and the computer. But I think if we've got some imagination, I think corporations still might bring them in because we're all so used to working from home. As long as you can show us value, I don't think that we would be too opposed to bring in interns. It's a big adjustment for us also. Normally I bring in about 8 or 12 interns a year, and it's pretty easy to direct them in the office. So it would be more challenging. But I think if we use more imagination, we could still use those interns. It would be a lot more research and not so much direct mentoring, but I think there's opportunities for interns and some of the other things that you do. So it's going to be difficult for you like the rest of us, but I think there's a lot of opportunity. But congratulations to everyone who gave the presentations. Some job you've done and a lot to be proud of.
Thank you, George. I do want to be mindful of time. It's 5:35, so we're a little over. I see that Jordana raised her hand, so if it's a burning question, we can take it.
No, I was just going to say that I know that we're still working at Lincoln Center with Ladders for Leaders, and we've had some really great success with virtual internships. So I was just going to say it's possible. That's all. It is possible. And so we want to continue.
Okay.
That's all.
Great. Thank you. So like I had mentioned, I'll send a follow-up email to the members of the board and the committee here. Again, would love to work with you if you think virtual internships are possible potentially at your places or through other employers in your network. So thank you for that. So on that score, please join me in thanking our program folks for joining us today and sharing more about what's been going on. And I'll turn it back to Alexa to close out the meeting.
I'm muted. Story of my life. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to the incredible program staff and your efforts. Again, please extend all our thanks and appreciation for that work. And also, I think the youth board members, the youth reps, youth committee members present today. We're excited about the year ahead. There will be some challenges for sure, but we are resilient and we are creative and we will rise to the occasion, I have no doubt. So with that, I hope you all have a safe holiday and we will be in touch. You've received the calendar invites for next year, but obviously there will be other things going on. So, there is a equity, the Miss Education of NYC Equity and Education, which is a very full town hall being done by young people. So thank you. We'll be in touch and let us know if there are sites that we can continue to plug in for these incredible programs. It's going to need a lot of support and networking. So thank you again. And thank you, Anthony and Commissioner and Andre, for all your great work and the executive committee. So with that, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Have a good one. Happy holidays.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great holiday.
Happy holidays.
Stay safe.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, everyone.